Decimas Oliva. I'm from Labindam, but I live in Lambasa. I like listening to Gold FM.
Only the classic hits.
Hi, I'm Saini Sakio from Kashmir Lotoka. I like listening to Gold FM. Only the classic hits.
My name is Hakata Losana. I'm from Butua and I love listening to Gold FM.
Gold FM. Only the classic hits.
Good evening, Fiji. In this bulletin, deferred loan payments accruing interest. Municipal Council may dip into cash reserves. And FRA says increased budget is welcomed.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jackie Spate.
Businesses and individuals who have been deferring loan payments are at a risk of ending up paying more later on. The Association of Banks says while there are initiatives and packages to cushion the impact of COVID-19, prolonging non-payment means debtors will have a bigger financial burden in the end. Association President Saud Minam says deferment is temporary relief and interest will continue to accrue. Koroi Tandulala reports.
Banks are urging customers who can to continue their loan repayments because interest has been accumulating for 4 months now.
For everyone to understand exactly that at the end of the day, banks will charge interest and banks will ask the customers to pay back the principal amount as well. And these interests are going to be accrued, and then after the 6 months, it'll be added to the overall loan. So there is no holiday.
If you also look at commercial bank lending rate in Fiji and compared with 100 developing countries, our interest rates in Fiji are at the bottom 10%.
The banks are now owed $3.4 billion in deferred payments accumulated since the soft repayment initiative was introduced. This amount is likely to balloon even higher, with banks indicating that more businesses and average Fijians are holding back payments.
Look at commercial bank lending. It's again creeping up. Yes, there's a sharp fall compared to a year ago, but it's increasing slowly, at least marginally from April and May.
If you have an opportunity and you have the capability to make sure that you make the payment for your interest and principal, please do that. If not, if you want to defer your principal amount, please do that and continue to make the interest, because at the end, it's going to cost you a little bit more on that part.
Bank real interest rates needs to be reduced. I mean, RBF has done its part, and by reducing the overnight borrowing rate, and the savings rate they give to the customers is very low. So their margin is quite, significant there. I'm sure at this time, I think banks really have to move up.
The Association of Banks has agreed on a case-by-case basis to extend loan deferments until the end of the year to help families and business still bearing the worst of this economic fallout. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
A $430 million budget support package has been approved by the Asian Development Bank to help the government with its COVID-19 response. Regional Director Masayuki Tachiri says the focus is on the private sector as it drives the economy. Sainian Imboila reports.
The multi-million-dollar package from the ADB is meant to stimulate private sector activity to get it up and running again.
That is obviously support the government COVID response, but also the underlying support for the policy change to have a better environment for the business, investment, and also the starting up the new business.
Tachiiri says setting up a firm foundation to help the recovery of our economy is crucial, and the Pacific representative of the World Bank agrees.
On creating a conducive policy environment for robust recovery of the economic, the productive sectors. And this is something in the case of Fiji that we're also working with. We've worked very closely with the Asian Development Bank as well as Australia and New Zealand on development policy lending to support Fiji's reform momentum.
The ADB is contributing close to $500 million, and the government is adding more by stimulating the economy with tax reductions, assistance to entrepreneurs and new businesses. The onus is now on the private sector to use these benefits to get the economy rolling once more. Sainian Imboila, FBC News.
In an effort to continue providing essential services, municipal councils might have to dig into their financial reserves. Local Government Minister Pramila Kumar says the most ratepayers will struggle to keep up with payments during this crisis. Kelly Vavala reports.
The local government ministry is ready to assist ratepayers.
In a situation where the ratepayers may not be able to pay, then obviously the municipal councils have to look at their reserve, and they have to pull out money from their reserve to provide these essential services.
With the government supporting those who have lost their jobs due to COVID-19, the local government ministry says there will be discussions on what discounts should be given out to ratepayers. Fijian says the ministry knows the challenges on hand.
Very hard for them to look after their family. If the local government has done that, it is so nice for everybody.
We need to put ourselves in each other's shoes, and that is what the ministry has done.
The ministry is lifting a burden from ratepayers, and it's just understandable times for everyone.
Municipalities will also have to align their financial year with government's calendar, starting with a new budget.
So planning processes will be much better. So that work will continue with municipal councils because they have to close their books by 31st of July this year, and then they need to then follow the new financial year, which begins in August.
The ministry says councils are also now undertaking a rate profiling exercise. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
Fiji Roads Authority says the increase in its budget allocation for the next financial year is encouraging. Chief Executive Jonathan Moore says allocation shows that their work is recognised as the FRA continues to better road networks throughout Fiji. Lena Rees has more.
The FRA has money for ongoing maintenance of roads and the rehabilitation or fixing of poor networks for the next 12 months.
The allocation for the maintenance budget is good. We can work with that, and we can make sure the roads are maintained in a safe condition. But there's also a separate allocation now for rehabs and renewals, which is really important to us because that gives us longevity and it gives us the sustainability of the work that we do.
Aside from the major road rehabilitation projects, Moore says they are also looking to continue bridge replacements.
The major ones I would say are probably the bridge replacement projects. They will continue. They have to continue because we need to get those bridges changed.
There is also work on some major highway upgrades, the Queen Elizabeth Drive replacing the Nasese Bridge. The FRA will also undertake some less obvious projects such as new footpaths and streetlights. Even with revenue constraints due to COVID-19, the government has been able to increase the budget allocation to the Fiji Roads Authority by $72.4 million. FRA has been allocated $348.9 million in the next budget. Lena Rees, FBC News.
Women's rights groups want the Fiji Corrections Service to reconsider their rehabilitation program when it comes to sex offenders, especially those who had been involved in sports. The Fiji Women's Crisis Centre and the Fiji Women's Rights Movement have tabled a petition calling on the FCS to follow the legal procedures and protocols of the rehabilitation program. Tale Matairukula reports.
The NGOs are calling on the corrections services to provide equal treatment to all inmates regardless of their status in society.
We have seen the rehabilitation policy. It's on their website. And according to that, sex offenders should be kept in maximum prison and they do not have any special privileges.
The issue came up after former Fiji Sevens player Amenoni Nasilasila was seen in training. The women's groups say under current policy, he must serve 12 months before any sort of release.
They get away with it, we're glorifying them, and then that's sending out a very wrong message to perpetrators, to young men who are watching all of this, that we can all get away with it.
The NGOs claim sportsmen who break the law are given special treatment, and this has been prevalent in the corrections service.
It is very disappointing and disturbing that we see the Fiji Corrections Services has its stance on allowing sports people convicted of rape to play sport, despite them serving less than a year of their sentence.
FRU Chief Executive John O'Connor says the participation of inmates in sports is part of the Corrections Services rehabilitation program that has been ongoing for many years.
I think the people are aware with this
I'm not sure what's the issue about not highlighting it at that time. And it's a part of the program.
The NGO petition has been sent to the Fiji Rugby Union, their major sponsors, affiliated unions, and various government ministers. Talima Terkula, FBC News.
Up ahead, Women's Ministry welcomes increased budget. And backyard gardens thrive in Madhuwata.
मेरा नाम शिबू है मैं तवा टाउन में रहता हूँ and I love listening to Mirchi FM it's hot.
My name is Kartik Abdestan और बाग में Mirchi FM it's hot.
नमस्कार मैं हलीम हूँ लंबासा से मैं हमेशा मिर्ची FM सुनता हूँ मिर्ची FM is hot in लंबासा.
Mirchi FM it's hot.
Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Meriseni Vuniwanga, says she is grateful for an increased allocation in the new budget. The ministry received $159 million compared to $127.7 million in the 2019-2020 budget. Vuniwanga says the budget is fitting since the pandemic has impacted vulnerable members of society. Vinina Rakautonga has more.
It is a timely boost for the ministry as they will now have enough funds to cater for disadvantaged Fijians.
Increasing my budget is a no-brainer, the budget for the ministry, because it shows that government is acutely aware of the vulnerabilities that exist and also recognizing that it is during pandemics like COVID that inequalities get exacerbated.
Vuniwanga says the ministry will ensure that there is transparency and that the money is used where it's needed the most.
So I'm really grateful, really grateful for the increase in budget. The onus, I guess, is now on us, the ministry and the staff of the ministry, to ensure that every cent counts, that the beneficiaries actually benefit out of this.
Social Welfare Director Rupeni Fatiaki says vulnerable Fijians cannot be sidelined when there is a financial setback.
It has been estimated that in the next 2050 there will be there's going to be an increase in age people will live longer. And so we need to be setting up policies and legislation to be able to help protect, and provide the needs and safety for the older generation.
The ministry is confident it can provide a social safety net to protect groups which are susceptible to the negative impacts of COVID-19. Venina Rakautonga, FBC News.
10 people were arrested in the past 48 hours for curfew breaches. 3 men were found drunk and disorderly in Singatoka, while a 52-year-old farmer faces an additional charge of trespassing. A 5th arrest was made in Nandi involving a 24-year-old man found walking along the Kerembula tram line. Meanwhile, 2 were arrested in the Southern Division and 1 in the Eastern Division. Police Commissioner Brigadier General Siti Venigilio says 2 more people were arrested late on Monday for curfew breach. There has been a notable increase in backyard farming in Madhuwata. These gardens, ensuring families eat nutritious meals every day, are an initiative of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency's Wakarawai Fiji Pro-Resilience Project. Eleanor Trangaivu has more.
Tambia village lies just beside the highway from Lambasa town to Senganga. It is one of the 75 communities in Madhuwata that's going heavy on backyard farming following the COVID-19 outbreak.
During the lockdown, we didn't run around to look for what to feed our families. Whatever we planted was enough to sustain us.
The villagers were empowered under the Wakarawai Fiji Pro-Resilience Project to venture into backyard farming as a means to address food and nutrition insecurity.
A few years back, there was never any backyard farms or garden in this village. It was just all trees. Thanks to ADRA and the EU, this project has changed our landscape.
Funded by the European Union, the Wakarawai Fiji Pro-Resilience Project has enabled communities to learn to be self-reliant and resilient in times of disasters.
Rather than waiting for someone else to come and help them, we are trying to inculcate in their mind that, with the resources they have, they can just work out the solution to their problem.
The Wakarawai Fiji Pro-Resilient Project aims to improve resilience and adaptive capacities of communities and subsistence farmers in 150 drought-affected communities in Madhuata and Ba Province. Eleanor Torangaiwiu, FBC News.
The Health Ministry has received about $1 million worth of supplies to help boost services. The donation from EqualMed, a charitable organisation run by Fiji-born Nivita Sharma, who now lives in the United States. The equipment includes oxygen masks, face masks including N95, gloves, gowns, CPR emasculator and manual blood pressure machines. The acting medical superintendent for the Colonial War Memorial Hospital says the assistance will contribute to the security of work for health officials in combating and containing the virus.
This time that we are still in the fight for COVID-19, and these donations are not only focused on COVID-19, but on other aspects of healthcare.
Before last year, we had a 20-foot container, and then last year 40 foot, and this year again 40 foot. So we are increasing the supplies so that we can, assist the medical system of Fiji.
Turning overseas, the United Arab Emirates has successfully launched its mission to Mars, a first for an Arab nation. The probe, named Hope, is now on a 500 million kilometre journey to the red planet. And it's business time now with Whitney.
Thanks, Jackie. In business tonight, 70,000 join LTA e-services. And in growing Fiji, international funding for Frank Hilton School. Stay with us.
Sangare ay ko sa inya na time au da mai na oro na alo mai madua. Ay to ale ahi na radio Fiji 1 nando moi binti.
Sambol graka ndango sela sa kau au vatu tu mai bot kola au da tingai tabua ondo mai boli tina singele wango na makete ondo tali takana barrongo na radio Fiji 1 ondo moi binti.
Yola binarigi ayo na vango kelera mai da ton mai na corona lota mai ang te mai pa do tali tangi ne na to mai biti na to monga ni be ya ni
Radio Fiji 1 nando moi viti.
Over 70,000 Land Transport Authority account holders have registered for e-services. Chief Executive Samuel Simpson is urging those who haven't to sign up, as this will allow them to carry out transactions and easily access services such as applications for their vehicle registration renewal. Simpson says drivers can also pay their traffic infringement notices without the need to travel to LTA offices and wait in line. He adds license holders will receive notifications and reminders of renewals prior to expiry dates. Customers can now go on LTA's Facebook page and register by simply filling out the form or register their email via web chat on the LTA website. Registration ends on July 31st. Sharon from HFC Bank is here with the latest from the money market.
The euro rose to its highest in more than 4 months against the US dollar. This was on hopes of a fiscal rescue package of about 390 billion euros. And if passed, it gives a significant boost for the Eurozone's struggling economy. The US dollar, on the other hand, continues to struggle as traders remain concerned about the world's largest economy. According to an IMF study, the US dollar's exchange rate will be a key factor in the pace of global economic recovery, given the dominance of the US dollar in global trade and finance. And closer to home, the July policy meeting minutes for Reserve Bank of Australia showed that the accommodative approach will be maintained as long as it is required. However, it cited that negative interest rates were rather unlikely. Positive news about a potential COVID-19 vaccine also added to overall market optimism and lifted riskier currencies. The New Zealand dollar rose 0.2% and the Australian dollar was up 0.1%. And that's all from HFC Bank for now. Vinaka.
Turning to today's local exchange rates as set this morning. As often is the case when the Fiji dollar rises against the Chinese yuan and the US dollar, it falls versus the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, as was the case today. The Sangamoli also rose against the PNG Kina and the Japanese yen, but dropped against the euro. Commodities were up. Crude oil prices rose a bit, approaching the $41 a barrel mark. Gold rose toward a new high at $1,816 per ounce, and silver closed closed up at 1986 an ounce. In growing Fiji tonight, the Frank Hilton organization has secured a funding from an international organization to help in the construction of a new building to house mobility devices for people with special needs. Chief Executive Sureni Pereira says the new building, once completed, will complete the setup for children who needs mobile assistance. The cost of the project is approximately $80,000 and it will be constructed next to the Frank Hilton organization building on Brown Street, Suva.
Have the clinical and technical capacity, we have the products, and by December hopefully we'll have the building as well to provide the service from. So that is at approximate cost of $60,000 to $80,000, and we'll be building adjacent to our complex here.
That's it from Business Tonight. We now join Jamie with the latest in sports.
Pinaka Whitney and good evening. Up ahead, Nandronga gear up for skipper opener. And mammoth task awaits jet setters tomorrow. This and more in sports tonight.
नाम ललेश नारायण है। हम रेडियो फीजी 2 सुनता है। रेडियो फीजी का इसके लड़का।
जी हाँ, मैं ताबुआ शहर से बोल रहा हूँ। मेरा नाम शर्मा है। बिहार में रेडियो फीजी 2 हमेशा सुनता हूँ। जो रेडियो फीजी 2 देश का धड़कन।
मेरा नाम चंद्रा है। मैं रकेती से बात करती हूँ। आपके राम राम। मुझे रेडियो फीजी 2 बहुत पसंद है।
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन।
The Nandronga rugby team expects Suva to be at their best when they host them this Saturday at Lawanga Park. With Skipper Cup points and the Fairbrother title at stake, the Stallions plan to lay it all on the field against the Capital City boys. Felipe Naikaso has more.
The loss to Suva during the Skipper Cup final last year is still fresh in the Stallions camp, as they know the intensity the Suva side brings to any match.
Suva is a hard team to beat, and we've discussed it with the boys, and we know the importance of this game, as Suva will be coming in with lots of big names.
Like other teams, Nandronga's preparations was also disrupted due to the coronavirus. However, the side has made use of the past few weeks as they aim for a good start to the local rugby season.
Of us were caught up with work, especially all of us in the discipline force, and that's not an excuse we'll use this Saturday. Because come Saturday, we'll have to give 100%, and I'm confident the boys are really prepared for Saturday.
Players have been reminded that getting a win this Saturday will lay the platform for them.
We want to keep the Fairbrother trophy this Saturday and also get that 5 points for the Skipper Cup. So it's a crucial match.
Nandronga battles Suva on Saturday at Lawanga Park in Singatoka at 3 p.m. The match will be aired live and exclusive on FBC Sports channel on the Walesi platform. Felipe Naikaso, FBC Sports.
Former flying Fijian Nemani Nandolo will be joined by Kini Murimurivalu at English club Leicester Tigers. The Tigers announced the signing of Murimurivalu last night. Speaking for the first time since joining the club, Nandolo says he is honored to be added to the list of Fijian players who have represented the Tigers. Another Fiji Sevens rep will be heading to Major League Rugby in the United States of America. Fiji Sevens forward Apinisa Malabu has signed for Rugby United New York. Both on the back of defeats and with little turnaround time before they face each other, Ba and Nandi football have had to scramble to get things in order before their Western Derby clash in the Vodafone Premier League tomorrow. Nandi coach Kamal Swami believes that ball control and support play will be vital in the matchup, with both sides struggling in those areas at the moment. Aquila Dama has more.
The recovery time may not be enough for Nandi after facing Lambasa at Subrail Park over the weekend.
We traveled to Lamasa, and then we came back from there, and then we are training 2 days. And traveling is another hectic thing.
But Nandi's opponent tomorrow have their own worries after a day of recovery.
We play a match and there is only 2 days rest. One day after the match is just recovery, and then we are up for the next match. So we did our injury assessment. Most of our senior boys are carrying injury, but they had to play.
Having lost to Lambasa 1-0 over the weekend, Nandi coach Swami says despite the short turnaround time, they will need to rise against Mba, who also suffered a shock 2-0 defeat to Nesinu.
We cannot take anything from Ba. Ba is a good side. So we cannot just look at that result and then go in and think that we can beat Ba. No. We need to prepare well and play good football on the pitch and do the best to try and get win.
Nandi will host Mba at Prince Charles Park tomorrow at 6 p.m. Aquila Dhama, FBC Sports.
Cristiano Ronaldo became the first player to score 50 goals in Serie A, La Liga and the Premier League, as his double this morning against Lazio put Juventus on the brink of the Serie A title. Juventus were 8 points clear of Inter Milan and need 4 points to clinch a 9th consecutive title. Athletics Fiji has set strict guidelines for everyone involved in the sport. Vice President Chochi Linga is reminding all affiliated clubs to ensure their athletes and officials are well versed in the new protocols. He says everyone will need to comply with strict requirements in place for the use of training facilities and equipment.
There are strict guidelines on the use of facilities, how both spectators and athletes and technical officials go into the facilities. We talk about clearing people before they go in to participate. All those are contained in our guidelines.
Eels fans are worried whether they will see their star Fijian winger Maika Sivo in action on Thursday. There's no news out of the Eels camp whether the Momi villager from Nandronga will be fit to face the West Tigers on Thursday after this injury against the Sea Eagles. That's it from Sports Tonight. In new media after the break, check out the Float in Theatre in France. This and more coming up.
Hola, my name is Charlotte. I'm from Navintamu. We love listening to the FM.
My name is Koto. I'm from Nagaranga. I love Today FM because of latest hit music and Today FM rocks.
My name is Sulweti. I'm from Nagaranga. Today FM rocks.
In new media tonight, it's a mix of the old and the new as Paris, France has introduced the Float in Theatre. Similar to drive-in cinemas, here you social distance on a boat. And it's weather time now with Angie.
Bula, and welcome to the Weather World. Warm weather is on the top right now. It was mild, bright and dry over much of the areas. Well, lucky for those that are on holiday right now, perfect time to be on one, keeping the weather in mind. Now quickly glancing through the other centers. In the west, the day was properly warmed up, turned out overcast for some time, but that changed quickly. Eastwards from Peck Harbour to Suva, moderate breezes along nice sunshine. It will be a little bit colder than it is across the rest of the country. And up north, a good deal of sunshine with afternoon temperatures of up to 33 degrees. At sea, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas. Turning to the tides, low tide at 1:11 a.m. with high tide at 7:21 a.m. Sunrise at 6:36. For tomorrow, the settled spell looks set to continue through another dry day on the cards with sunshine. Tomorrow's temps, Ba takes it again. The night temperatures will fall to 19 degrees. Now, where's the big comforters at? And looking further on to Thursday, it will see scattered showers and sunny spells. That's all I have from my end. It's back to Jackie.
Thanks so much for that, Angie. In Fijian Pulse tonight, we asked, what do you think of police investing in new technology like drones?
This might reduce the manpower within the force.
I think this will help police work faster.
This can definitely help reduce crime rates.
The technology might better help police cooperate with international partners.
In the world of the weird and the wonderful, a Korean company is using robots to make sure people are complying with COVID-19 measures. Along with temperature checks, it can detect anyone who is not wearing a mask. Recapping the main stories for tonight, banks confirm deferred loan payments occurring interest. Asian Development Bank commits to assisting Fiji, and municipal councils may dip into cash reserves. Now for these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. Our poll question we're asking, do you feel the new budget is going to make things easier in these trying times? Visit our FBC website to answer. And before we go, our shot of the day. This photo was taken by Shahil Satendra early Sunday morning at the NZ Stadium in Suva. And you can send us newsworthy pictures to email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, via Facebook page FBC News and our Twitter page at FBC_news. That's your news for tonight. Until tomorrow, from the team and I, stay safe. Good night.
Na vango la tila tarelau au daptu mana korbatura on tawara na kinuelia na santa konrobe totali takana barang wali na mula fam ira kena serap kena tumta vaka do matagren
pula na haka terstia au bati tuelo toka au tali takana barang na mula fm na banduan serre
solo mina ya to sabe betapu na barang na mula fm na banduan serre
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.